Hi, I'm Femi OK and join the stream live on Al Jazeera and YouTube. What happens if Catalonia really declares independence from Spain? It's been 10 days of violence, protests and fiery debate. There's been a push for dialogue on both sides, but the issue remains tense. On today's programme, we'll hear from unionists and separatists in Barcelona. But first, here's Malika Bilal following the conversation online.
That's right, Femi. Well, the opinions have been as divided online as they are in the streets. Here's a taste. Two people with very different views.
It's evident that if from the institutions, from the government of Catalonia, they are labeling you as a member of the far right, as a fascist, for the sole reason of defending the territorial unity, this creates a climate of hostility that makes you not express your opinion or not be able to express yourself with ease in society.
It is most likely that the Parliament of Catalonia will declare independence tomorrow. It will do so as a matter of credibility and dignity. Credibility because it has vowed to do so, because the law of the referendum says that the independence must be declared after proclaiming the results of the referendum. And because a matter of dignity, because after seeing how even the King of Spain didn't even have a word for the victims of the Spanish police, it is pretty clear that the Spanish state doesn't even consider the Catalans as its own citizens anymore.
Well, the points they raised have been the theme of conversations online for more than 10 days. Here's a snapshot of it all from the referendum on October 1st until today under hashtag Catalonia. As this heat map shows, discussions intensified as events on the ground heat up, from the vote to the police crackdown to protests for and against independence. Those rallying for secession are also using Catalan hashtags like Independencia Catalonia and what translates to Madrid robs us. On the other side, pro-unity voices are calling for dialogue using the Spanish hashtag Hablemos and in Catalan, let's recover our common sense. Well, the events in Catalonia have also caught the attention of people outside of the region. Thousands of residents in the Basque city of Bilbao in the north of Spain filled the streets in support of Catalonia's independence. Lawmakers in Ireland also showed their support, as did residents of Greece, Switzerland, and Scotland. I'll be bringing in your comments to today's program, so tweet us with hashtag AJStream. Femi?
Now joining us in Barcelona, Marta Rizike is a student and spokesperson for Universities for Republic. Also in Barcelona, Cesar Rubio is a student and Catalan unionist. And Jonah Hall is the senior correspondent for Al Jazeera. Hello, everybody. Good to have you here. Marta and Cesar, I'm really curious about your different experiences as students on either side of this debate. Marta, when you're going around your daily life, you're going through your student life, are you getting any pushback from your views that Catalan should be independent from Spain?
Well, we've been mobilizing all these weeks and all these past years, and now we see it more than ever before that it is the time to proclaim the Republic. Therefore, it is our role to be in the streets and to show the Catalan people that we have to be with them whenever they need us.
Cesar, for you, you feel very strongly that Catalonia should remain part of Spain. Are you getting any pushback? Is your daily life changed? Are people reacting to you in any specific way? Cesar.
Sorry. In my university, the ambient is quite complex because they are suspending all classes, and we sometimes feel quite pushed out because we feel unionist, and sometimes it's quite complex to control these feelings because you feel ashamed of your society.
I'm just looking at some reporting, Jonah, that you did from just 24 hours ago. Anti-secessionist Catalans take to the streets after referendum. This idea of the silent majority, you were saying they were silent no longer. What were they telling you?
Well, we are really happy because yesterday was a party day for us. We were out of the streets demonstrating.
Cesar, hold tight. This is for Jonah. Jonah, carry on.
This was a huge rally that took place in Barcelona on Sunday. Anything between 300 and 900,000 by the very conflicting reports of the numbers on the streets, and it was pretty extraordinary because this was anti-secessionist, as you say, a mix of unionist, of Spanish flags on the streets and the Catalan Senyera. It's the sort of thing that people haven't seen here in Barcelona and in Catalonia for decades, really, and you got a sense that this was a really quite genuine outpouring of feeling from people who have not felt able to say how they feel about this independence issue up to now, because they feel that their views are not welcome, that their views are actively suppressed in the media here. One young woman said, we're tired of being the majority, but being told that we're not the majority. There is this expression, they're just the 5 or 6, which seems to come up in the media here. There were only 5 or 6 of them, or 300 or 400 or what have you. On Sunday, they finally had the opportunity openly to give voice to their very strong sense that this country should remain united. And I think it was remarkable. I suspect it must have had some impact on Catalonia's leaders just to see the scale of opinion that is not, in fact, behind them.
Martin, let me show you some of the images that Cesar shared with us. This is his on Sunday, Todos somos Catalunya. And then his vantage point of where he was protesting that Catalonia should stay part of Spain. When you see all of those people out there in the streets, when you hear what Jonas said about this silent majority, how do you react? What would you say to them?
But I'd like to tell them that I'm very much for freedom of expression, so it is totally their right to demonstrate in the street. I also have to tell them that they had a space to speak up, which was the referendum that happened in the 1st of October. They could have told their own opinion in this referendum, and of course I would suggest them to keep expressing them. But also the Catalan people have been going massively in the streets for years, and they showed it in a very democratic way on Sunday, that there is actually a majority which is for independence.
And Marta, I hear what you're saying. We, of course, saw pictures of people who are pro-independence and those who are against it. But what of those in the middle who are unsure, the undecided? So take a look here. I'm going to read a couple of tweets, and then I'll throw this over to you, Cesar. Bertie on Twitter says, it's not the vote results that count. It's the pictures of police against ballot boxes choreographed, this person says, by the Catalonian government. That's a scar. Another person, Gurki, weighs in that the response by police seemed very heavy-handed and not at all what's expected of Western democracies, and it will only give more legitimacy to the Catalonian cause. So there's a sense that police violence, some would say, are pushing people towards one way or the other. I want to give you one more view and hear your thoughts on that. This is Xavier from Barcelona, and this is what he had to say about that.
No entiendo cómo hemos llegado a este punto, pero la violencia policial que ha habido en las calles ha creado un movimiento en el pueblo. He visto un cambio en la mentalidad de la gente que a raíz de toda esta violencia que ha vivido policial y que están en una posición neutra, se han decantado más en la zona de independentismo debido al rechazo a las actuaciones del gobierno central. El gobierno central ha reprimido la expresión de un pueblo que únicamente lo que quería hacer era votar.
So Cesar, has seeing the reaction from the police caused people to push one way or the other?
Well, I think that's quite normal. Violence, nobody likes violence, even me. I mean, I didn't vote it the last referendum because I thought that my opinion wasn't reflected, and it was also illegal. But seeing the police acting like they did was quite shameful. But I would like also to point out that it's been, during lots of times, we've been demonstrating as students and lots of people for rights, not just voting, different rights. But when the Mossos d'Esquadra, the police from Catalonia, used also the violence against us, I didn't see that big movement supporting these ideas or something like this.
Guess I want to bring in a little piece of video. This is from King Felipe of Spain. He very rarely makes national TV addresses, but on October the 3rd, he said this. Have a listen.
Desde hace ya tiempo, determinadas autoridades de Cataluña, de una manera reiterada, consciente y deliberada, han venido incumpliendo la Constitución y su Estatuto de Autonomía, que es la ley que reconoce, protege y ampara sus instituciones históricas y su autogobierno. Con sus decisiones han vulnerado de una manera sistemática las normas aprobadas legal y legítimamente, demostrando una deslealtad inadmisible hacia los poderes del Estado. Hoy la sociedad catalana está fracturada y enfrentada. Esas autoridades han menospreciado los afectos y los sentimientos de solidaridad que han unido y unirán al conjunto de los españoles. Y con su conducta irresponsable incluso pueden poner en riesgo la estabilidad económica y social de Cataluña y de toda España.
Jonah, since the march of the silent majority, what's been happening in Catalonia, in Barcelona, that you can report on for us? What's the latest?
Well, there's a sense that everybody's sort of holding their breath now because the next big moment comes on Tuesday at 6 p.m. local time here when the regional president, Carles Puigdemont, delivers an address to Parliament. It's billed as a report back to Parliament on the referendum, but many people believe, and certainly people within his own alliance, the Pro-Independence Alliance, believe that he may use this opportunity to unilaterally declare independence from Spain on the basis of the results of the referendum on the 1st of October. So in a sense, there's a sort of sense of stasis at the moment, everybody waiting for that big moment to arrive. Of course, that would be an enormous development if it were to come. And Madrid, the government in Madrid, the Prime Minister, and again on Monday, the Deputy Prime Minister promising effectively a furious response. They have the possibility, at least, of invoking a never-before-used clause of the Constitution in response to a declaration of independence that would effectively revoke the autonomy of Catalonia. That would plunge this place into a deep, deep and very dangerous constitutional crisis.
Marta and Cesar, you may remember when Malika was doing this roundup about conversations that were happening online, one of the hashtags was "Let's Talk." How much conversation is happening between independence and staying as part of Spain, the nationalist argument? How much conversation is happening across that divide? Marta, you start.
Well, the Catalan government has been very clear about it. The Catalan government is open to any dialogue or mediation. There's been many proposals on mediation that the Catalan government has accepted, and the Catalan government has accepted all kind of tables open to dialogue, but the only one that is not responding to this dialogue is the Spanish government at the moment. Also, if you allow me to speak about one thing that was mentioned before, I would like to say that the repression received in the 1st October was actually a repression that ended with almost 900 people being injured. So I find very surprising the relation that Cesar did before. It really doesn't have anything to do. And also, even when we can hear the speech of the king didn't even mention the repression that was happening in Catalonia. How is he gonna represent Catalonia if he doesn't even care about Catalan citizens? Of course, Catalan citizens will be asking for a proclamation of the Catalan Republic.
But how I'm supposed to be represented by a consulta referendum that has the less of the 40% of our population that is able to vote? I mean, I'm ashamed of the violence, but this is something that had to happen. I mean, people knew that the schools were supposed to be closed. So what are they doing there? They were just committing illegal things. Even the law of our referendum is illegal, looking through the eyes of our statute, of our constitutional law from our autonomy. So, I mean, what I'm supposed to obey if tomorrow Carles Puigdemont declares the independence?
democracy means giving the power to people. At the moment that you try to listen to the people and you implement a referendum and you hold this referendum and try to do it as with the most guarantees as possible, but then you see how you are repressed by the Spanish government during the weeks before, not allowing the workers to do their job, and then them searching for ballots in order that the referendum doesn't happen. And in the end, the 1st October, everything happens in a normal way until the moment that the Spanish police is sent to take all the ballot boxes from all the polling stations and start repressing people. And I'm saying it clear, they hurt people who were children and old people. They hurt more than 800 people. This is not a joke. This is
But also,
repression.
if you
This is
see the
violent
reports
repression. This is
of
state
all
violence.
the violence, lots of hospitals have said, and you can check it on internet, that lots of injuries were just diesels, some bros and that kind of things. Something normal.
Have
that
you
it
seen
happened.
the videos?
But I
Have you
would like
seen
to
it?
ask you something. I would like to ask you something. What I'm supposed to do tomorrow if Puigdemont declares their independence? If I'm Spanish, you have the Spanish passport. What are you going to do with it tomorrow? You are going to throw it away, or you want also the rights that you have as an European citizen with that passport?
Cesar, I think that's actually a really good question. It's one I want to bring our international community in on as well. What will happen on October 10th if the Catalan government does declare independence? What will happen if they don't? So here's two views. Charles on Twitter says, Madrid cannot and will not negotiate with a regional governor who has rebelled against the nation and is leading an insurrection. That's one view. This is another. This is Joseph, whose video you saw earlier in the show. He says the central government has been absent for many years in Catalonia, and this has allowed for the independentists to think that they are in a separate reality. It looks, Jonah, it looks, I want to bring you in here because it looks like this is intractable. It looks like negotiation is not going to happen. So if there is a call for independence on the 10th, what do you see happening next? More protests?
I mean, it's incredibly difficult to know what might happen next. I mean, in a totally sort of linear fashion, if there is a declaration of independence, well, then it will be for Madrid and the government in Madrid to react to that. They may choose to take the hardest line possible. They've threatened to do it, the so-called nuclear option, try to revoke Catalonia's autonomy. That seems to be an extraordinarily hardline approach. They may at that point seek somehow to talk, some kind of dialogue. But the question of what future lies ahead for an independent Catalonia, if we assume that independence does in fact come to pass and that a brand new minted state emerges here, is a complex one, because the European Union, the European Commission has said that independent Catalonia would not automatically be a member of the European Union. It would have to reapply for membership. That would require the assent of all existing members of the European Union, including Spain. So the Spanish Parliament itself would have to sign on to that. And just in the last 24 hours or so, the French European Affairs Minister said that France would not even recognise a declaration of independence by Catalonia. So, it's incredibly complex and very difficult to know what might happen. Will there be riots? Will there be protests? Conceivably, yes, although it has to be said that with the exception of the violence on the 1st of October, which I must say both sides that I have spoken to universally condemn, with the exception of that violence, this has been a remarkably peaceful process on both sides, both the pro-independence and anti-independence camps. They protest, they demonstrate, they speak out. They don't, up to now at least, fight over it.
Let me just share with you what Jonah was referencing, and this is from the European Commission. Just look at this last line here. If a referendum were to be organised in line with the Spanish constitution, it would mean that the territory leaving would find itself outside of the European Union. Marta, if you kind of fast forward a little bit, if you get what you want, which is independence from the rest of Spain, what do you think might be the biggest consequence of that?
Well, the biggest consequence of this is that there will have to be a constitutional process. That means that all these structures should be created from zero. This is actually very positive because that way we can make sure that we have a country that really has as a fundamental value peace and democracy, not as the Spanish state that we're living in today. So this means that it will be also our time to make all our fights possible. It is our time to have a Catalan Republic where there is social justice, where people are a priority of the government, where we can really make sure that people is heard and not like it's been happening these days.
See, Marta, I hear the principles, I hear the theories of this. I'm just wondering what the potential timeline could be and how this could be practical.
Well, we're waiting for tomorrow to see the Catalan Republic being proclaimed. Also, the Catalan government has been very clear about the fact that this proclamation has to be together with a dialogue and with a mediation. So for me and for my organization, the way we see it is that there's only one way, which is having the Republic at the same time that there is a mediation, most probably with an international agent, if that's possible. But now it is time also for the Spanish government to dialogue, because it's not allowing anyone to dialogue. And
do you think that if now the government, or Prime Minister decides to talk with the Catalan government, the independence is going to go away? No independence, we are going to go back to Spain? Just a question. Because I'm really surprised. Sorry,
okay.
Answer the question, Sherry.
I can answer the question. So basically, there was a referendum the 1st October.
Illegal
so
one,
now,
an illegal one.
Now what has
point this illegal one.
It wasn't an illegal one. It was a referendum that was asked by the Catalan population. So the Catalan parliament had been recognized by the Catalan population in the elections in 2015, which were actually the elections with higher turnout. But to answer the question, the dialogue has to be about how to implement all the results of the referendum.
But this referendum is illegal. It's illegal. Even all constitutional law from Catalonia says it's illegal because the number of people that was inside the parliament isn't enough. So what we are supposed to do? Respect an referendum that has any democratic
So let me just ask somebody who's watching from the outside, and these are the results of the referendum here. So 90% of people who voted said yes, we want a separate Catalonia. 7% said no, just over 7% said no. But how many people voted?
Less than the 40%.
So that is an issue, is it not, Marta?
No, not exactly.
Isn't that the point of the silent majority?
There is a 5.5 million people in Catalonia that is allowed to vote. There you can see the numbers.
It's not exactly, because one thing that must be considered is that many polling stations were closed by the Spanish police. So there was actually
Marta, that basically cements my point in that if not enough people voted, there is a problem there with going forward with saying that the majority would like to separate from main part of Spain. Hold tight for a moment, because we're almost at the end of this part of the program. Then we're going to take the conversation online. Malika.
So I will end with this comment via YouTube from Hunter, who says, I feel the cause of unionists for reform and unity are being drowned out because of the current independent demonstration, but separation doesn't guarantee economic improvement, which means people online are talking about the economics of this all.
So much more to talk about. Marta, Cesar, Jonah Hall, thank you so much for being part of our program today. Our conversation continues always online at #AJStream. Take care, everybody.